Hi. Have you ever encountered a situation where someone intentionally provoked you, saying things that made you angry? In that moment, did you choose to react immediately, or did you keep quiet to observe things more clearly? Honestly, we often think that saying something or doing something is the way to prove our worth. But sometimes, silence is the strongest answer. Silence is not weakness or avoidance, but a wise choice to protect ourselves and avoid falling into unnecessary traps. Imagine this: you're in a meeting and a coworker criticizes you in front of everyone. Instead of reacting harshly, you just smile and listen. What happens? Your silence may make them uncomfortable, while you remain calm and in control of the situation. In today's episode, we'll explore 7 specific situations where you shouldn't react, but instead choose silence. Let's find out together, because who knows, this might help you avoid unnecessary troubles in life. Ready? Let's get started. Situation 1. When faced with provocation or insult, ensure the following factors. Have you ever been in a situation where someone said something mean or deliberately provoked you? Maybe it was a competitive co-worker, an upset family member, or even a stranger on social media. In these situations, our first reaction is often to want to get even, to respond in kind to prove that we're not going to be bullied. But does that really solve the problem or just make things worse? Imagine you're in an important meeting. A co-worker suddenly criticizes you in front of everyone. This project is running behind schedule because of your irresponsible work style. Not only is this statement untrue, it also makes you feel deeply offended. At that point, you could choose to argue back, trying to defend yourself. But would that help? In fact, reacting in such situations often only increases tension. The other person may continue to attack or try to corner you. On the other hand, what happens if you remain silent? Not only does silence help you protect your emotional energy, but it also makes the other person feel like they are being deprived. This is where the philosophy of Stoicism really shines. Epictetus, one of the Stoic philosophers, once said, "If someone insults you, remember that it only hurts you if you agree with them." This quote reminds us that the words of others only have power when we let them affect us. In everyday life, you can see many typical examples of this. A tired mother, constantly bothered by her young child, can easily get angry and yell. But what if that mother chooses to stay silent and observe? The child will recognize her calmness and can adjust his behavior. Or in a relationship, when the other person is angry and uses harsh words, your silence not only shows maturity but also helps to calm the situation, instead of adding fuel to the fire. Staying silent in a provocative situation is not easy, because it requires us to control our emotions. But think about it: every time you respond, you are giving control of your emotions to someone else. So why not choose to stay silent and take control of the situation? Try this in your own life. The next time someone tries to offend you, instead of immediately responding, take a deep breath and think, what do they want from me? Do I need to give it to them? Just by keeping quiet and smiling, you will feel the power of self-control. And when you don't respond, the other person will feel embarrassed because they don't get the result they want. Life is full of provocations, but what matters is how you react. Choose silence, because silence not only protects you from unnecessary conflicts, but also shows that you are truly in control of yourself. Are you ready to try? Situation 2. When emotions explode. Have you ever felt like your emotions were spiraling out of control, like a storm that was sweeping you away and you couldn't stop? When we're angry, sad, or frustrated, we often say or do things that we later regret. But have you ever thought that sometimes silence is the best way to control that storm? Imagine you come home from a long, tiring day at work. You walk into your house and find it a mess. Things are strewn about, dinner is not ready, and children are laughing everywhere. In that moment, you feel frustrated and want to scream or blame someone. But if you actually do, what will happen? No one will understand your tiredness. Instead, the atmosphere in the house will become more tense. Emotional outbursts are not uncommon. They happen when we have been bottled up for too long, or when something triggers us deep inside. But have you ever wondered, are the words you say in anger what you really mean? Sometimes, in just a moment of losing control of your emotions, you can hurt the people you love the most. Stoicism has a very important principle: we cannot control the events that happen to us, but we can control our reactions to them. That is, anger or sadness is not your enemy, how you react to them is what determines everything. A real-life example is the story of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and also a great Stoic philosopher. Despite his supreme power, he always tried to control his emotions. Once, a subordinate disobeyed his orders in an important meeting. Instead of shouting in front of everyone, Marcus chose to stay silent, wondering why the other person acted that way, and then spoke privately to find out the reason. As a result, not only did he maintain peace, but he also learned more about the psychology of others, which helped him manage better. So what can you do when your emotions flare up? Think about times when you've been angry, sad, or frustrated. Do you feel like you've lost control, letting your emotions dictate your actions and words? What if you just stopped for a moment, took a deep breath, and chose to be silent instead of reacting immediately? Keeping quiet when you are feeling overwhelmed is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of strength. It gives you time to think and observe. If someone upsets you, staying silent allows you to see where the real problem lies, with that person, or with how you reacted. If you are upset by an event, staying silent helps you avoid magnifying your pain with whining or blaming. Try making a rule for yourself: when your emotions are running high, stay silent for at least 10 seconds. Take a deep breath, and ask yourself, how am I feeling? Is this reaction helping me solve the problem? Even a short pause can help you see things more clearly, and the words you were about to say may no longer be necessary. There are times in life when emotions get out of control. But it's important to learn how to control your emotions, rather than letting them control you. And sometimes, the best way to do that is to keep quiet. Are you willing to try? Remember, you don't have to prove anything in anger. Your silence speaks volumes. Situation 3, when you meet someone who is not willing to listen. Have you ever felt like you were talking to a wall? You tried to explain, express your opinion, or share your feelings, but the other person just didn't seem to want to listen. Maybe they were just waiting for their turn to speak, or worse, they had already made up their mind about what you were going to say. Do you continue to try to convince them, or do you choose to stay silent and protect yourself? Imagine this scenario: in an argument with a coworker, you're trying to explain that a project delay isn't your fault. But instead of listening, they interrupt you repeatedly, make one-sided arguments, and even add blame. The more you try to explain, the more they dismiss you in a dismissive manner. What happens if you continue to argue? Chances are, the conversation will turn into a never-ending argument, and you'll leave feeling exhausted and frustrated. This is where silence becomes an important weapon. When the other person is not willing to listen, all your efforts to explain and persuade will be meaningless. Silence does not mean that you give up your point of view, but that you choose not to waste energy on a conversation that is going nowhere. Ask yourself, do I really need to prove this right now? Or can I let time and action speak for themselves? A clear example can be seen in family relationships. A father wants his child to change a bad habit, but the child has no intention of listening. Instead of scolding or forcing, he chooses to stay silent, spend time observing the child's behavior, and find ways to influence indirectly. By not saying too much, he creates space for the child to think and realize his mistakes. Sometimes, his silence has a greater impact than any words. We tend to want to be understood and validated immediately. But remember, listening is a choice, not a requirement on the other person's part. If they are not willing to listen, all your efforts will fall on deaf ears. Instead of trying to change them, focus on yourself. This will not only help you stay calm, but will also save your energy for investing in truly meaningful relationships and conversations. Stoic philosophy reminds us that you have no control over other people, but you do have control over how you respond to them. When faced with someone who is unwilling to listen, remaining silent is a way to demonstrate maturity and patience. It also sends a powerful message: you don't have to fight to be heard in a situation where the other person isn't worth your effort. Next time you encounter someone who is not willing to listen, try being silent. Don't try to force your opinion. Instead, let them deal with the void created by your silence. They may realize something important. And if not, you will have kept your peace. Have you tried this? If not, start now. Silence is not only a way to protect yourself, but also to teach others the value of listening. Scenario 4, when there is not enough information to respond. Have you ever been in a situation where someone asks you a difficult question, or asks you for an immediate opinion, but you realize that you don't have enough information to respond? In these situations, we often feel pressured to say something just to avoid feeling uninformed or to save face. But does responding hastily and without consideration actually lead to positive results? Imagine you're in an important meeting and your boss suddenly asks, "Why are sales down this month compared to last month?" You don't have the data or context, but you feel compelled to answer. What happens if you guess or give an incorrect reason? You might misunderstand the issue or lose the trust of your colleagues. In situations like these, silence is not only a way to avoid mistakes, but also shows professionalism and responsibility. When you don't have enough information, silence gives you time to think, learn, and come up with a more accurate answer later. Don't be afraid to say you need more time or need to double-check before answering. This doesn't make you look weak. On the contrary, it shows that you know your limits and respect the truth. A simple example, a friend asks for your opinion about investing in a project that you are not familiar with. You might immediately give advice based on your personal feelings, but if the project fails, who will be responsible? Instead of rushing to respond, you could say, "I need to learn more before I can give an opinion." This silence and consideration not only protects you from making the wrong decision, but also helps others see the value of being prepared. Stoic philosophy teaches us an important lesson: true knowledge comes from admitting that you don't know. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, emphasized that wisdom begins with recognizing your own limitations. When you don't know enough, silence is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. Remember, you don't have to have an answer for everything right away. Today's world often pushes us to react quickly, but reacting quickly isn't always the right thing to do. Instead, learn to say, "I need some time to think about this." You'll find that not only will others respect you more, but you'll also feel relieved that you're not burdened with incomplete information. Next time you find yourself in a similar situation, ask yourself, "Do I really understand this? Is my response helpful or just going to complicate the situation?" If the answer is not sure, choose to stay silent. That way you protect your credibility and ensure that what you say is truly valuable. Silence is not a sign of incompetence, it is a sign of confidence and maturity. Try applying it in your life and work. Sometimes, just a moment of silence can help you avoid big mistakes and make a better impression on others. Are you willing to try? Situation 5, when silence is the most powerful answer. Have you ever been in a situation where, instead of responding or arguing, you realized that silence was the most powerful response? This feeling may come when you are faced with criticism, an insult, or a difficult question, and you realize that no amount of words can change the situation. In such moments, silence is not just an option, but a powerful response. Imagine you're in an important meeting with a group of colleagues. Someone in the group starts criticizing you unfairly, blaming you for a problem that you had nothing to do with. You might feel like you're being pushed into a corner and want to defend yourself. But stop and think for a moment, will what you say really change their perspective? Or will it just make things more tense and unpleasant? Silence, in this situation, is the strongest response you can give. Silence is not a sign of weakness, but rather a sign of calmness, confidence, and self-control. When you don't react hastily, others will realize that you are not easily drawn into their games. And sometimes, your silence is the sharpest response you can give. A real-life example is the story of Mahatma Gandhi, the leader of the Indian independence movement. Throughout his life, Gandhi faced thousands of criticisms, insults, and even violence from his oppressors. Yet he consistently chose silence over words or actions. When insulted, Gandhi did not retaliate, but instead reflected patience, compassion, and tenacity in pursuing his goals. His silence was not acceptance or concession, but an expression of inner strength and faith in his methods. And in the end, his silence became part of the most powerful strategy against injustice. You can always choose to respond harshly or defend yourself with words. But sometimes the truly powerful response is not words, but silence. Silence is a way to protect yourself without having to fight a pointless battle. When you choose silence, you not only keep your cool, but you also maintain your respect. Silence prevents you from getting sucked into a conflict that has no outcome, and it makes the other person think twice about what they said. Another example is a story in everyday life. You may have met someone who is always criticizing and judging you for everything you do. No matter how hard you try to explain, they never listen. Why continue to argue with someone who has no intention of changing their views? Instead of getting caught up in that spiral, you can choose to stay silent, keep calm, and not let them disturb your emotions. Sometimes, silence is the best way to maintain your inner peace and not be affected by baseless words. Stoic philosophy, with its emphasis on self-control and self-mastery, encourages us to understand that a reaction is not always necessary. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and renowned Stoic philosopher, often advised us not to respond to every word we hear, especially when it is unimportant or meaningless. He taught that silence is a sign of wisdom and strength. When faced with an insult or injustice, not reacting hastily but taking the time to clarify the situation will help you maintain your dignity and composure. When you realize that silence is the most powerful answer, you will feel much freer. Instead of fighting to protect your ego or your reason, you can relax and let silence do the work for you. That is when you do not let outside factors control your emotions and decisions. So are you ready to try silence in stressful situations? Remember, sometimes you don't need to speak. Silence is a powerful action that can change the course of a conversation, and most importantly, it helps you maintain your composure, confidence, and control. You will no longer be caught up in meaningless words or unnecessary arguments. Silence will be a powerful tool to help you maintain peace and self-respect in situations where words cannot resolve. So the next time you find yourself in a stressful situation, don't rush to react. Ask yourself, what can words do in this situation? Can silence help me maintain my composure and dignity? If the answer is yes, choose silence, and you'll find that, sometimes, silence is the most powerful answer. Scenario 6, when you feel pressure to say something right away. In life, we are often faced with abrupt situations where people expect an immediate response from you. These are times when you may feel like you are being dragged into an argument or situation without having time to think it through. During these times, do you often feel compelled to give a quick answer so as not to offend anyone, or just to escape the stress? Think about a work situation. You're in an important team meeting and a question comes up out of the blue. All eyes are on you, and you know you have to respond immediately. But you haven't had time to think, understand the question, or even have enough information to come up with an accurate response. How do you handle this situation without feeling pressure to speak up right away? In situations like these, silence can be the best option. When you feel pressure to respond immediately, remember that you don't have to answer right away. Giving a hasty, inaccurate answer can cause more trouble than help. Instead, take a moment to think, ask for more information if necessary, or simply say that you need time to think before responding. Silence during these moments not only protects you from making a mistake, but also demonstrates composure and self-control. For example, in a meeting with a client, you may be asked to come up with an immediate solution to a complex problem. Instead of rushing to answer without being sure, you could say, "This is an important question, I need time to consider all the relevant factors before giving you a definitive answer." Not only will this give you time to think, but it will also earn the client's respect for your thoughtfulness and professionalism. Stoicism teaches us that in stressful situations, instead of reacting immediately, we should calm down and think. Marcus Aurelius, one of the famous Stoic philosophers, often advised us to slow down a bit, reflect on the nature of the situation before making any reaction. Not reacting immediately helps us avoid making bad decisions, stay calm and act more wisely. In life, we will often face stressful and pressured situations. However, silence is not a sign of weakness or giving up. It is wisdom, a way to help you protect yourself from hasty decisions that can have unwanted consequences. When you can stop and think before reacting, you will find that you can control the situation better and achieve better results in every situation. So, next time you feel pressured to react immediately, try stopping, taking a deep breath, and thinking about this question: do I really need to respond right now? And if the answer is no, don't be afraid to be quiet and take some time to think. This will help you avoid making bad decisions and bring calmness to your life. Scenario 7. When silence helps you avoid a toxic relationship. We all have relationships in our lives, whether it's friends, co-workers, or family, but not all of them are healthy. Sometimes, we may encounter toxic people who are negative, hurtful, or try to drag us into pointless arguments. In these situations, silence can be a powerful tool to protect ourselves and distance ourselves from toxic relationships. Think about a specific situation. You have a close friend, but every time you see them, they criticize you, making you feel like you have to justify your actions and thoughts. Although you want to explain, you find that every time you speak up, the situation only gets worse. So what would you do in this situation? Would you continue to engage in this argument, or would you choose to stay silent to keep yourself from getting further into this toxic relationship? Silence in this case is not a sign that you are giving up or not caring, but a way for you to protect yourself. Silence keeps you from being hurtful, and it gives you a chance to think about whether the relationship is really worth your time and energy. You don't have to engage in negative conversations or endless arguments. Silence will help you distance yourself from the relationship, creating space for you to see the situation more clearly. A real-life example might be the story of someone who works in a company and has a colleague who constantly criticizes your work, even when you do the right thing. Every time you encounter such criticism, you feel angry and want to argue back. However, you realize that responding will only make things more tense and will not benefit anyone. Instead of reacting immediately, you decide to stay silent. You do not respond to the provocation, do not engage in the debate. This not only helps you stay away from negativity, but also helps you protect your energy, keep your mind clear, and continue working without being affected by those around you. Silence is not only a way to protect yourself from a toxic relationship, but it is also a way to recharge your batteries. When you are not caught up in pointless arguments, you can focus on healthier relationships with people who truly care for and value you. Like the Stoic philosophy, silence and self-control help you understand that you cannot change the people around you, but you can control how you react to them. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "We cannot change the world, but we can change our view of it." When you are dealing with toxic relationships, silence is a way to change your view, choosing not to be affected by the negativity. By remaining silent, you also send a powerful message to the other person: you do not condone their behavior and you will not be drawn into hurtful conversations. In reality, toxic relationships can appear anywhere, and silence is sometimes the only way you can protect yourself from disrespectful words or negative behavior. You may not be able to change other people, but you can choose not to participate in those situations. So what do you do when you find yourself in a toxic relationship? Are you willing to keep quiet and not get sucked into pointless arguments? Silence in this case not only helps you protect your feelings, but also helps you maintain truly valuable and healthy relationships. You don't have to explain or justify yourself in these situations. Silence is powerful, it is self-control, and it is a way to recharge your energy to build better relationships. Silence is a tool you can use to stay away from toxic relationships, protect yourself, and build a better life. Try using silence in similar situations, and you will see that staying calm and in control can help you maintain respect and peace in your life. As we have explored throughout the cases, silence is not passivity or resignation, but rather a sign of inner strength and wisdom. When you know when to be silent, you are in control of yourself and the situation, keeping your mind from being disturbed by external factors. Silence helps you maintain your composure in stressful situations, protects you from toxic relationships, and gives you the space to think before you react. It is the way to live a more peaceful and happy life. Silence is sometimes the strongest response you can give in difficult situations. Never forget that true strength does not come from always speaking up, but from knowing when to be silent and when to act. And most importantly, you are free to control your emotions and reactions, instead of being swept away by external factors. If you find the information in this video useful and you want to learn more lessons about self-control, about how to live mindfully and wisely, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the latest videos. Share these values with those around you so that together we can build a better, more peaceful life. Thank you for being with us throughout this video. Remember, silence is not just a reaction, but your wisdom and strength. Stay safe and strong.